Hi guys, it's Mary McIntyre. Welcome back to my channel. Me, yet again, less than 2 weeks before Halloween, embarking on a big project that I don't really have time to do. So I'm outside, so sorry about passing traffic noise. I don't really have time to do this, but I'm determined to get it done, a bit like with my octopus ride last year. Now, for the last 3 or 4 years, I've had a haunted fairground in my garden for Halloween. The first thing that I ever built for that was my swings ride. I've decided this year that I want to give it an upgrade to turn it into a carousel. I made the octopus ride last year and I really loved how creepy it was. And actually it was my husband's idea, instead of making horses for the carousel, why not make them seahorses? So I thought that was a really awesome idea, and my big zombie clown that I made, pipe lagging skeleton that I corpsed and turned into a massive like 6 foot tall clown, I'm gonna turn that into a pirate, a zombie pirate. So I'm really quite excited about this, and it shouldn't take an awful lot of work. So what I've done is I've bought some sheets of plywood. It's just the 5.5mm plywood, so it's not the really thick stuff. It's 4 foot by 2 foot in metric. That's 1220 by 606mm, and it's just the thin plywood. And I have drawn out two. This is a life-size seahorse for the size I need. My plan is to cut two of these for each seahorse, join them together using some wooden dowel. I've also bought, to make the uprights that the seahorses will be attached to, I've got a few lengths of this dowel which only just fit in my car. So I'm gonna draw around my seahorses and cut them out. It's going to be a very quick paint job. I'm not going to have time to add much texture or anything, but as with everything in my fairground, the more beaten up it looks, the better, because it's an abandoned fairground that's been taken over by zombie dolls. So yeah, I'm going to cut some pieces of dowel and drill holes so that I can kind of attach the two flat pieces of seahorse together. And the benefit of doing that is I can take them apart and store them flat, because we really are running out of room for all of these big props that I keep making. So in theory, this is not a massive amount of work, but I am going to have to cut out. Ideally, I'd want to make at least 4 complete seahorses. If I've got enough time and wood, I might do a 5th one. I have literally no idea how I'm going to get the rods to the kind of pole that the seahorse is attached to. I have no idea at all how I'm going to get that in any way connected to the parasol that is the ride. I've got no idea how I'm going to make a seat for the dolls. Yeah, why do I do this to myself? But I think it'll look really cool. I've got lots of creepy cloth, and you can use bits of kind of spiral crochet to look like under the sea kind of stuff. I've bought some kind of dreadlocks and some pirate hats to go. I'm going to dress up as a zombie pirate myself, so it's all going to tie in really nicely. And the octopus ride will make a little bit more sense, because last year it was like, why is there an octopus in your garden? I mean, it's obviously a common fairground ride, that's why I did it, but it was a little bit left field compared to the rest. So yeah, that's the plan. Right, yeah, this is going to be a very last minute thing again, but hopefully I'll be able to pull it together. Hi guys, it's Saturday today. Halloween is on Friday and I'm nowhere near ready. I've had a really busy week work-wise and other stuff as well. So my husband surprised me by priming all these for me. So he used an exterior wood primer. Oh, by the way, I've got an actual microphone now, so hopefully you are hearing me talk clearly and not hearing the football match that's going on right across the road from my garage. So yeah, Mark primed these for me, and so now I can paint them. So as with previous things that I've done with my fairground rides, I like to make it look like, so the base layer is grey and then the paint on top is kind of mottled and looks like it's flaking off. So I am using acrylic paint because it's fast drying. It's freezing today. It's showery. I've got nowhere outside that I can leave these to dry very easily. And I am just so short of time. So while acrylic may not bond brilliantly, if it does lift a little bit, it kind of goes with the vibes. I can't remember if I actually even showed you these cut out. So my plan is to have two of the seahorses side to side with this as the seat for the dolls to sit on, and then I'm actually gonna have to pop out tomorrow to Wickes to buy some threaded bolts so that I can kind of attach, like drill holes so that they're going to be spaced. I was going to use dowel rods for this, but I just can't figure out how it's going to work. The dowel I've bought is probably a bit too small a diameter to actually screw into. So I've got myself in a pickle. I'm probably going to have to buy some fatter dowels as well for the upright poles. But the main part at the moment is to get these painted so that I can get them together, drill the holes, one at the eye, one somewhere underneath the base of the tail, bolt those together so that from the side will just be like a carousel seahorse. That's the plan. So I need to get all of these things painted both sides today, so that I can move on and start doing the colours. Yeah, this is going to be very rushed again, but luckily I don't have any talks this week. I do have work I need to be getting on with, but during the day I'm good. I should have enough free time to actually get this done. So yeah, fingers crossed. It's blowing an absolute hoolie out here. So I'm really hoping my new lapel mic that Mark bought me for our anniversary is actually doing the job and making me sound like some semblance of an actual proper YouTuber. So I'm going to flip the camera around. I've already mixed up my paint. It's a kind of flat grey colour made with white acrylic with a tiny bit of black acrylic. So let's get on painting. Right, I'm not sure how much of this you're going to be able to see too easily. I'll do my best to make sure I'm not blocking, but I do need to get the paint on these. Lots of swearing goes on during these football matches, so hopefully you're not hearing any of that now. It's been difficult for me. I can't film on Saturdays because of the football, and there's also games on Sundays, and they're so shouty and sweary that it makes it really difficult for me to film even in my study. So it's kind of nice that I've got this lapel mic, so hopefully that will get rid of any of that horrible background noise. So I added a little bit of water to this paint. Maybe I've done a little too much, but the grey layer doesn't have to be like a solid grey. We just want it to be primer that's going to show through the colours that I put onto this once I start painting it. I haven't actually even thought about what colour my seahorses are going to be. Okay, my phone battery was dead and I had to put my phone on charge, but I really needed to get on with this. So each of the seahorses are a different colour. I've done this with a sponge and not very much paint because I deliberately want the grey to show through, because I want it to look like the paint's starting to flake off. So I'm going to give that a little bit of time to just set a bit. And then I'm going to go in with some dark brown and a brush to kind of get the sort of stripy features on the seahorse, because he's obviously very flat and 2D at the minute. This morning we've been to Wix and bought some threaded bars, so we now have the means to attach these to each other, so that's good. That was bothering me. The other thing that I've bought is some thick cord, which I'm going to wrap around the dowel rod, because I was worried that it's just too thin and you're not going to see it, that it's a carousel. I'm going to let this set for a little bit. It's so grey and overcast here. I feel like I'm going to get rain very soon, but it's really difficult doing these in the garage because there's nowhere to stand them up and let them dry. Hey guys, it's very late at night. My husband has just assembled all of these. How cool do they look? So the doll will sit on there, so that's really cool. My favourite one is the orange. The features are a little bit pronounced, but when you're seeing stuff in the dark, it kind of has to be a bit cartoony. One thing I'm going to do with these is to flick some kind of green mildewy stuff over them so they look a little bit dirtier than they do now. Maybe some rust marks on the drill holes, but I'm just relieved to have some seahorses. So the other thing I've done is got my parasol out and I've cut my dowel down to size and I've just painted it. I missed a bit, I can see on camera, damn it. So yeah, I've painted those with a primer, and so that can dry overnight. Then tomorrow I'm going to glue some twisted rope around the stem, because a lot of carousels usually have that kind of twisted rope effect. I'm going to call it a night. I'm beyond exhausted. Everything came out of the loft today, so I can get a good start on setting everything up tomorrow. One thing I'm really sad about, our village has a Halloween trail and I take part every year, and you get a clue and the kids collect all the letters or numbers and arrange a phrase and then send the quizzes in and they draw somebody to win a prize. And I emailed them to say that I wanted to take part again, and I still hadn't received my clue, and I found out today that everyone else has. For some reason I got overlooked, so I'm not on the Halloween trail, which is really a shame. But anyway, it is what it is. People will still come and I have loads and loads of treats for people. So right, I'll be back tomorrow hopefully with a lot of sleep and a bit more refreshed. Right, this is the rope I'm using to wrap around the dowel rods. I've put a mark 12 centimeters apart on all of them, so that'll give me a guide of where to wrap. Now, rather than fighting with the hot glue, I'm going to actually cable tie the bottom of the rope to the bottom of the pole, wind it round and cable tie it at the top. So while that's not going to be the most secure, it means I'm not going to be struggling with glue, because I had a nightmare doing this with lights last year on something and the glue just kept popping off. So I'll see how this goes. I'll try it on one of them, and if it works I'll do it for the others.
So here they are with the seahorses on the poles. Genuinely, this Halloween was sponsored by cable ties. These horses are held on with cable ties. The blue cord is held on by cable ties. To keep those upright, we've used some black garden stakes that are kind of like fencing stakes. So they went into the ground quite deep and we cable tied them onto the wooden poles. And then at the top, I used a bit of duct tape to just attach the tops of the wooden poles to each of the supports on the parasol. That actually was really good because it ended up keeping it very stable. The seats were too low, far too low, so the dolls are held on with fishing line. I added green fabric and creepy cloth and some hand painted bits of seaweed to try to give that effect of being underwater. Didn't have time for any weathering, but here the ride is with the carousel ride with the lights. So I will give you a full tour of the Halloween decorations in a moment, but this is what the carousel looked like. So I had two pirates to create. First of all, the old zombie clown makeover. So I had this skull mask that I used as a feeding tube during COVID when we wanted to stay socially distanced. So what I did is use PVA and kitchen towel to basically go over all of that and just make it look like flesh, but then painted it to have a kind of greeny, seaweedy, some red, make the teeth dirty. I added some sinew in places as well, so it looked a bit like flesh falling off the bone that's been rotting underwater. So that was the vibe with that one. And I ripped the nose off my old clown, then just cable ties again, cable tied this mask onto that, added a wig and a pirate hat. And I then dressed her in one of my favorite corset, sort of steampunk corset dresses, and added a few accessories. And I think she actually turned out really super cool. I'm really happy with how she looks. I added a couple of dreadlocks and the pirate hat I got from Shein, and I added my little skeleton bird on her shoulder. But the rest of this is basically just my clothes and jewelry, and I put an extra skirt underneath just to hide that. So she looked really, really cool. I was super, super happy with how she looked, and I thought that the skull face kind of matched pretty well with what was going on with the rest of the body. So that was really cool. I was really happy with how she turned out. Next, it was on to creating a costume for me. So first of all, I wanted barnacles on my face and on my hat, and I was racking my brains how I was going to do this. And in the end, I used cardboard, cut out circles, added just like a star pattern in dark, and then I cut those out and cut the centers out and made a slit in them, and then kind of spent absolutely ages folding them so that the dark bits were the low points of the barnacle, the highlights were the light bits of the barnacle, and they looked surprisingly authentic. So I glued those together, and then this genuinely took a really long time because some of them are really tiny. But I spent ages on those, and once they were glued together, I was just brushing them over with PVA glue, did several layers of those, got them nice and shiny and secure, and then I got quite a few of them and glued them onto a piece of card, and then added loads more PVA glue to create kind of like a solid prosthetic. It I stuck it to my face using PVA glue because I didn't want to use latex on my skin this year. You probably saw my recent video seeing the red welts on my face. I've got a family video. I've got a family wedding next weekend, and I really didn't want to trash my skin before that. So I made two different groups of barnacles, one for my hat, one for my face, which would look like they were joined together. And this is it before the glue had dried. They looked really legitimately like barnacles. I was really surprised. I didn't think it it was going to work, but it did. So I really, really love how they turned out. Next up, I wanted to make some octopus tentacles to be coming out of my hat. This is heavily inspired by a video I saw from the Ellie Mac's YouTube channel last year, where she did a Davy Jones's Locker amazing look. So what I did here is to made lots of very thick plaited pieces of wool in various colours, browns, greens, blues, and I got some thick plastic straws that I got with some milkshakes over the summer, and I cut them up and hot glued them on. I also wove wire through the plaits, and that allowed me to actually mold the shape of the tentacles, and I just threaded those into my hair. I put my hair in lots of plaits that night, and I had some dreadlocks from Shein, but I also made loads more using really thick wool. So each single one, I was adding beads and jewels and knots and all sorts of stuff to give me a lot of different dreadlocks, essentially in different colours. And I absolutely love how they turned out. I also did some crocheted spirals to look like seaweed on the top of my hat. Now, my makeup was not as gory as I wanted because, as I said, I didn't want to wreck my skin 2 weeks before my stepson's wedding. The other thing I did is make myself a pirate shirt. So I just did this out of an old bed sheet. I did a really simple, basically T-shaped design, then hand stitched the little holes for the laces. And I coupled that with a corset, a waist cinching corset that I have, and a green scarf. So that was a fairly simple outfit to put together. I just used basic black harem pants, and it looked really cool. It was kind of like a steampunk pirate that's just come out from under the sea. So I was super happy with my look. It was quite glam as my usual Halloween looks go, but I really enjoyed. I didn't want to take this off. The end of the night, I didn't want to take it. So here's the final decorations tour. So I added graveyard stuff and groundbreaker skeletons. I put the roller coaster on this part of my garden this year, and it was amazing how many people said, "Oh, is that new?" And I this is the third year of the roller coaster, I believe. Creepy cloth everywhere, zombie dolls everywhere, the homemade spine that is under my girl's world zombie, and my octopus ride from last year, which is so flimsy and all the paint's fallen off. I'm going to have to do a renovation of that for next year. But the zombie dolls look super creepy. We had spotlights on different parts of the garden, solar panel spotlights, and we had just fairy lights all around lots of different parts of the garden. Over here, I've got a giant spider. I have my Halloween wreath. There's the zombie, our pumpkins, inflatable skeleton by the door, which kept catching the wind and touching people, which was cool. So I spent ages on my pumpkins. I did some Lord of the Rings inspired stuff. We had a black light there illuminating some skeletons, and a life-size skeleton, which is new this year, with some green LED lights, and I made that look like a pirate as well. Running down this side of the garden, lots of those little hanging skeletons, which you couldn't really see in the dark. But instead of projecting onto the garage door this year, I did it onto an upstairs window. And everybody that knocked, I said, "Don't forget to look upstairs for the ghosts." And that just played. I just did the ghost loop playing for the whole night. So I was really happy with how all this came together. It was very last minute. I didn't get brilliant footage of how everything looked, but I love the way the fairy lights looked. I had the one headlight on the roller coaster car because the other one broke, but anything that's not working properly adds to the whole vibe of this abandoned theme park. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed seeing the Halloween decorations. Um, it was a lot of work. It really was so much work to get the carousel done in time. It was really stressful. I will definitely weather all of those bits. And the plan was to be able to take the seahorses apart to store them flat, but we didn't have enough wing nuts. So we ended up using self-locking bolts on those. So they're having to be stored as they are. So I'm not quite sure what we're going to do about the seats being in the wrong place. Pumpkins again, we've got obviously a basic jack-o'-lantern, my Lord of the Rings Gandalf facing the Balrog. I tried an Eye of Sauron, didn't really work very well. The other ones, I just put some glow paint on them and some glow rocks and put them under the black light. So that looked really awesome. So yeah, we had quite a dry morning the morning after, but then we were forecast quite a lot of rain. It had been dry and windy. Most of the fabric was pretty dry. So the next morning, I had to basically get out and get as much of this stuff back inside as possible so that we could get it dry because it had been raining the whole week. So I spent the whole day collating everything. This is not even everything. This is my stepson's bedroom, and you can't see that it's a bedroom. This is the stuff that went out. This isn't even all of my Halloween decorations. There was stuff in the garage, there was stuff on the area in the other room trying to get dry. This was a lot, guys. Like this, it's so cool seeing how people love my display, but this was a lot. I was physically broken, and there's no way that I could have done any of this year's Halloween stuff without my husband's help. He was an absolute gem, and I am so grateful to him for the help that he gave me because it wouldn't have happened without him. Some stuff would have been put out, most of it just wouldn't. I ordered some new bags so that I could reorganize everything and get it all bagged up and labeled. The bags are really flimsy, but that worked, and everything is now in bags. It now has labels. Still haven't put it back up in the loft for other reasons to do with some work we're having done. But once all this goes up in the loft, I'll actually be really glad to see the back of it for now. I honestly, at this point, don't know if I've got it in me to do this again next year. Physically, this broke me. Um, I just, I just don't know if I can do this next year. I may change my mind if I feel a bit more human when we get to autumn next year. But I will obviously still dress up and do some stuff for Halloween. I just don't know if I can go through this again. It was a lot. But everyone who came had a great time. We gave out loads and loads of treats, and it was really awesome. So, thank you so much for watching if you stayed to the end. It's a long video, but I just wanted to get a line under the Halloween stuff and get it out there. So, Christmas is going to start very soon on my channel, so make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.